Well, hello, creatives, community, and kind folks out there. Welcome to RPG with DBJ. I am your host, DBJ, and all of you are my co-hosts on this channel. Yes, we go live Monday through Friday over on Facebook and Twitch and YouTube, and even the audio gets punched out to our own Discord server. If you would like to pop in a few links and or pictures and things like that that are unable, where you are unable to do so on the live stream, and of course you can interact with other people thereof, of people far more intelligent than myself. So glad to have you here. I appreciate it. Today, this is Third Pillar Thursday, and some may say, well, what is Third Pillar? Well, Third Pillar Thursday, the third pillar of exploration in gaming, with the first and second pillars applying to both combat and role playing and social interaction, respectively. Of course, the third pillar being exploration is something that I hold close to me as your self appointed third pillarist of the tabletop RPG community. And today we've been talking about nomadic cultures. This whole week we've been talking about nomadic cultures, and today we're going to continue that conversation. And uh, with a little bit of a caveat that I'm going to show you a little sneak peek at both past and present work that is and future work that is being done in terms of developing the exploration pillar in tabletop role-playing games. Now, I will say that just as a little bit of a preamble, so people can find the link and jump on in, as well as continue our conversation. I will say that I've had a little bit of connections here after the show's going off, and by no means do I mean to use any type of uh, I'm using stereotypes as an example of not stereotyping. So for those of you who may either see a title or stop by and think that I'm trying to cast some kind of dispersions on people's culture or something like that, not at all. As a matter of fact, the whole point of it is to do the opposite. So please stop by, interact, heck, just watch the whole context, and you would understand where all of us are coming from. All right, so on this Third Pillar Thursday, of course, we're going to talk about the environment. So if you're going to be or incorporate or have a completely nomadic culture, you're absolutely positively going to impact and be impacted by the environment. And oftentimes, hey, Ushi, hey, what's going on there? Well, no, howdy to you there. Thank you very much. Oftentimes, narratively, we can be pretty good when it comes to describing the environment, right? We have plenty of examples in television and movies and graphic novels and plenty of like artwork out there. You do your little stop by to DeviantArt or ArtStation and Pinterest or something like that, and we start grabbing ourselves some art assets and showing our players. Maybe we have miniatures and landscapes and things, three-dimensional representations and whatnot. And that's good, but I think we can do better, right? Either through our descriptions, through and further having a mechanical impact in our tabletop role playing games, far beyond what fifth edition pretty much has defaulted to in terms of like bright light, dim light, darkness, and difficult terrain. It's a good start, but I think it leaves a little something to be desired. And so when you have a nomadic culture going through a vast desert or hacking its way through a jungle or escaping the raining liquid fire from a volcanic eruption, or trying to find shelter after disembarking from a ship lashed to docks that's being blasted by white capped waves sweeping over the community or something, or a hurricane has just made landfall and it's uh, lifting salt water and pelting pelting rain sideways so much that it stings and whatnot. We all live in regions where just the weather itself is can be pretty hazardous and dangerous. And it also brings to light that the environment can be very neutral. So, for example, in fifth edition, there are many creatures, most of them pretty like big bad evil guy level, right? They're like legendary creatures that have legendary actions and lairs. But most normal creatures live in a place that is their lair. An alligator isn't just scary because it's an alligator. An alligator is scary because you're in a small dinghy or a flat bottomed boat and you hear it, rub up against the bottom and it wants to, you know, grab someone or come up on land and grab someone. And what does an alligator do? It it grabs you, pulls you down to the bottom of the dank waters and starts to spin till whatever it's eating stops spinning and moving, right? Sharks are dangerous not just because they're sharks, but because you're in ocean waters. And that's just a panic. That's a panic in and of itself, So having a location where the the actual environment has a mechanical impact on the game, I think is not only important, but I think it's kind of lost as well. Um, and the great thing about, and this doesn't necessarily need to be a natural environment, it can be a city, pre-built, ancient ruins, rope bridges, walking along pathways along the sides of cliff sides. They could be bell towers and water towers and rooftop runs and scaling castle walls and diving into deep sewers and such. Every place is an environment, and I believe like the environment should be neutral in the sense that that the neutrality. Hey, Cam, what's going on there? The neutrality of the environment should be something that can be used and abused by both the player characters and whatever creatures are there. So, hey, sure, you're in a deep swamp and that alligator might drag one of your henchmen down and start spinning and eat them. But maybe a player character is a ranger or a rogue or something and wants to hide down in a dank swamp, and then when their enemy goes by they want to grab them one by one and slice their throats as they pull them down off of a boat. And I'm like, yeah, heck yeah, because that sounds freaking awesome, right? Because I'm a very cinematic individual myself, so I love things like that. Hey, hey, what's going on there? Rickard says you should also always ask yourself, what purpose does the environment serve in this scene? Exactly. Like, a lot of times, a lot of times, the environment is a way to modulate the specialty and the spotlight in the game. Like, an example would be that let's go swampy, rope bridgey kind of thing, right? So maybe the barbarian, on dry land can kick ass, and maybe that's their spotlight, right? Hey, like, my character's fast enough to go first, and I'm going to take my big old battle axe. Let's go something very stereotypical, and I can one shot an ogre per round or something. Any other players cannot. And maybe that allows them the spotlight, but maybe, just maybe, wading waist deep in dank waters, or trying to keep your balance on a flat bottomed boat, or having no place to swing that damn axe on a rickety old rope bridge allows others to basically have the spotlight. Hey, in this one scene in the game, yeah, you're the best. Everybody else has got to sit in the back. But in this other scene, going across this rickety rope bridge while you're being attacked by goblin riding pterodactyls, maybe you don't have any ranged abilities, and maybe you have to rely on your other players. So, I think one of the purposes of the environment is to basically allow people to shine, to work as a team, to shift the spotlight around, and basically to have other challenges as well. If there's it is creative challenges placed in front of people, much like figuring out a puzzle or a riddle or something like that. It's just not written in like a puzzle book, but it's the same thing, right? Yeah. Rickard says even if it's just a backdrop, make it a great backdrop, not just a note background. Exactly. Now, mind you, we do have the ability to what we call hand wave things away, right? I like hand waving a lot. You, hey guys, it's been 3 weeks and you've been on a storm-tossed ship, and but suddenly you realize you wake up on the beach of a deserted island, and I break out my I break out my reprint of Isle of Dread or something like that. I mean, yeah, you can absolutely hand wave, but if you've designed a world where the purpose of the world is that it's dark and dangerous and hazardous and things, maybe it behooves us to actually have those dangers impact the players as opposed to going, it's dark and dangerous. Here, take a long rest whenever you want. Right? It's a little bit off-putting. Cam was talking about Odiogs are my best friend. The idea that yeah, religious Odiogs, holy shit. Maybe just having the option of pulling in the dangerous and complicated elements. It doesn't necessarily need to be dangerous, it could be complicated, the complicated elements of your environment into your game, because now you've already foreshadowed. Let me give you an example. If I told you I designed a dungeon that had about 30 or 40 pit traps, and I put a grease spell over all the whole floor, so everybody's going to be slipping into these pit traps. And oh, I added there's an instant hold person spell inside the pit trap, so people can't get out because they get down in it and they can't climb their way out. And oh, by the way, every pit trap is full of water, so they're just going to drown down there. And I'd be an asshole to make a dumb dungeon like that. But if I told you, you hear winter wolves baying behind you, the blizzard, the snow moves in, and the blizzard's throwing ice pellets sideways as it stings your raw faces as you pull your clothes and cloaks up around you, and in front of you is a vast frozen lake. What do you do? Well, we run for it. We try to navigate the lake, which is exactly what I just said. Slippery, chance of falling in, chance of getting like frostbite, enemies behind you, adapted to the region, But so the environment is a way for us to foreshadow. It's not a gotcha, it's a foreshadow of things to come, whether you suggest that there are storm clouds on the horizon, or you're sailing on a ship and you see the waves are starting to get worse, or the desert sun is going higher and you're feeling yourself being parched. Sure, in the beginning, it's just description. But maybe you're going, as a dungeon master, you're like, man, the tension just isn't here. How do I ramp this up? Oh, I already said there's a storm that's possibly coming. Guess what? I'm going to start adding in fog or wind and torrential rain and lightning bolts and blah blah. You know what I mean? Flooding and all these kind of things. So it gives us the ability to alert our players. Guess what? This thing has a chance of impacting what you're doing. Now you can ignore it, whatever you want to do. Your player characters, you can go where you want to, do what you want. But I'm letting you know up front, this is a thing that may have an impact in the world, especially when it comes to like weather, and of course the actual physical landscape as well. Letting people know that if they're climbing like a rocky, broken landscape and they see like a landslide ahead of them, or a normal trade route is blocked by that same landslide or mudslide or something, or they smell smoke, and when they look over the valley, they see it burning because of a forest fire, or they feel the ground rumbling, and there's even more lava spewing out of the top of that damn volcano. You're letting them know, hey, here's some hazards. So when poison gas or flammable gases erupt out of the ground, or lava seems to flow past the player characters, trapping them on the island, you've already expressed this ahead of time instead of going, pit trap, something like that. So also, one of the things I think I don't want to say it's missing, but not taught or embraced, is the idea of dungeon masters and giving us a tension timer. Tension timers are things you can put into your back pocket to push the action forward, to get to eliminate analysis paralysis, as if to say, listen, you got to go. Tapping your players on the shoulders creatively and going, yeah, you can't stay here. You have to move. And if you do stay here, I'm not the cause of your problems. You are. I've already told you there's going to be an issue. You got to keep moving, instead of going like, well, I'm going to I'm going to make a nice little soft place here, rest my head on the dead goblins in the dungeon. Let's take a long rest. It's like, no, um, that kind of thing. I think Rickard's kind of going to go off to another point of why we should have cinematic environments. To elaborate on what I meant, when you think of background environments from movies and books, do you think of a normal road, or do you think of the gates of Argonath, or the bridge of Khazad-dûm? You know what? Uh, Rickard mentions. You guys are always ahead of me. Um, Much like the idea of random encounters and how they're kind of maligned in gaming. The thing is that random encounters, when you're going along a road and or you're in a dungeon and you randomly meet monsters and your player characters are navigating your world, what you're trying to do, all of this is world building, right? So you don't want like Rickard has mentioned, like the gates of Argonath. You don't want just a regular old, oh well, you guys come across a castle wall. What do you do? No, 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 no. You spent too much time world building. You want to let your players know this is my world. This is exactly what's in it, and I'm going to let you know what it looks like, what it feels like, and smells, and the emotional context to it. You know, when you go into that dank city, maybe you don't describe it as smelling like urine and decomposition. Maybe it smells like fear and hopelessness. You know, using alliterations to describe your world. You know, so maybe you want memorable bits and pieces of your world, and the player's interaction with it means that this is your chance to info dump without necessarily stopping the game to read paragraphs of stuff you've written down. Instead, it's how did I interact with the world? What does this place look like? You know, when we hear of Game of Thrones and the White Walkers and the Wall up north or something, I mean, it's this unique chunk of environment that exists in the world, and we want to know what it's about, and you want to describe it with as much uh, quick quickly absorb detail as possible, and then leave space open for the players to go, well, what's that about? What do you mean it was a hand built wall 700 feet tall? People can't do that, you know? And like, well, they did. uh, Anna Lee says, yes, weather can create great motivation factors. Hells yes. And good morning to you too as well. Yeah, we often don't include weather, at least in a mechanical sense, or maybe not just in general in a lot of role playing games. It tends to be, what is it? Comfortable internal temperature, 68 degrees Fahrenheit, you know, whatever. That kind of thing. Let's see. Rickard mentions Argonath doesn't even lead to anything. It's just two giant statues, but so many artists have drawn them because they stick with you. Those, let's see if I can find, let's see if I can find some images here, shall we? Let's I can do this quick enough. Oh, yep. Damn, where's a really good one? Is that from the movies? Yeah. Um, it's such a great. Oh no. Oh, I've already got something up. Sorry, I can't show you. Damn it. Sorry about that, guys. Getting a little squirrely there. Those twin statues with their hands up, or like what is my mind is going to so many things like around the world, like the Sphinx and Leaning Tower of Pisa and the canals of Venice. And I mean, there's so many different unique places around the world. The Stonehenge and New York City skyline, and so many unique places like the Grand Canyon and whatnot. And not only are they visually like stunning, like you go to these places and you're like, man, I haven't seen anything like this. And when you see images of it, you go, either this is what I'm thinking about, or it's very close to it. But also letting it have an impact, whether it's the wind or rain, the sound, the smell, and all that kind of stuff. Um, Cameron Cameron mentions to highlight these awesome environments. How often should we use mundane environments? I think it's like anything else. How many? It's like it's like spices, right? How much salt and pepper do you want to add to your meal? Just enough. That's a terrible way to give an example, but yeah, um, it's the it's just basically like you might taste it and go, it's not enough. Your players are traveling along and they don't feel threatened enough in your dangerous war torn region. You got to turn the volume up and go, okay, well, maybe let me remind them a little bit by having like waves of arrows fly overhead or like catapult shots of burning pitch land nearby and have them have to make a run for it or something. Uh, yeah, Annalise says describing smells or the feeling in the air lends so much to the feeling of the game. Also, uh, let, uh, let me. This is a cheat code, okay? Shh, don't tell anybody. As a dungeon master, this is a perfect way also for you to not have as many die rolls, allow your players to feel like they are experts, and and dump a lot of information. Here's what I mean. Hey, wizard, because of your arcane knowledge, you feel the waves of energy flow around you. You realize that there's a dark eminence in the region, probably to your north, right? Now, when you say something like that, I just ripped that out of my ass, okay? When you say something like that, you avoid a die roll because you don't need to keep make a perception check, make another perception check. Here's your 85th perception check, right? B, maybe you give some piece of information to a player character because they're an expert at the thing. The fighter knows why those dead goblins were killed. The rogue knows that there are pickpockets in the city. The paladin knows that there's a feeling of desperation with these people and that the gods have turned their backs on them, right? And then lastly, you get to dump some information on the players. Guess what? That dark energy that you sensed up to the north, it's yours. Here's a story hook given to you directly while you were sleeping or while you were picking berries there, druid, or something like that, you know. So yeah, it's a cheat code. It gets people moving. It lets them know that there's something out there for them to latch onto. Oh man, hey, Mike. Rickard says, can't agree more with what Annalise says. Don't just say the fog rolls in. Make the players feel it with all of their senses. Yeah, oh, absolutely, hell yeah. Like, and it's not. I get that. I get that you don't want to. You don't want to control what the players feel, right? Like you don't want to, as a dungeon master, we don't want to say your character is afraid or your character is paranoid, but that tinge of a feeling, like as a dungeon master you say like, yeah, you're a badass, but this place would make others feel this way, or this place just it tinges, it's that rubbing in the back of your skull that your medulla oblongata is just tinged just a little bit. Your lizard brain wants to make you run, and then let the players go, well, I brush off the feeling of fear and I move forward. Okay, well, that's fine, but I'm letting you know the city of shadows, there's people walking in the background and you feel like someone's watching you. You know, when you try to get a rest in this desolate region, it feels like the very land is alive and breathing underneath your bed sack or something like that. You know, I love all of that kind of description, and to have it have a mechanical effect is even greater. Let's see, sorry, getting back into the chat, I apologize. Vampanoise says, like waking up in someone else's bed smelling like regret and bad decisions rather than stale cigarettes and cheap whiskey. Similar but different. Yeah, waking up with smell someone else's bed smelling of regret and bad decisions. Yeah, that it's like it describes everything but nothing at the same time. When you describe like an emotion laced with a physical object. I think all of us have woken up with the smell of bad decisions. You're just like, man, does that smell like I don't know, worn out Chuck Taylors or something? Probably. Um, I want to catch up in the chat just a minute. Rickard says mundane environments are great for when you don't want there to be any focus on the environment. They're awesome for role playing moments, combat that you want to focus on the people fighting, or for downtime where the table can take a breather. Oh yeah, um, you're on a sailing ship and a pirate ship, and it's sunny out, and there's a great trade wind breeze or whatnot. Great, okay, nothing's going on now. We can focus inwards for the players to do the classic hanging around the table in the inn or the campfire to talk about what had happened before. So yeah, absolutely. Um, Mike Gould mentions that telling the warlock and only the warlock that they can hear whispers everywhere will put the whole party on edge, and no roll is required. Oh, that's yeah, that's another thing to set people on edge. Pass a note to one player, and it could be something innocuous, completely innocuous. I've passed notes that basically said, written on a note, "Act paranoid," or you think you hear something, or one of the other player characters is oddly missing from this conversation. Why? You throwing in some paranoia works a lot, giving individual players specific bits of information, um, moving the spotlight around. Maybe sure in Dungeons and Dragons the fighter isn't very skilled, but letting them have, I don't know, having them be a forensic specialist in battle because they know that the goblins were killed with one razor sharp blade by an expert. Do they have medicine? No. But is their background in battle and warfare, and maybe something from their background, i.e., making it personal? Sure, why not? Absolutely. Vampanoy mentions, like describing spells. So I tell the players what it is without saying it outright, especially so casters can use that info to decide whether to counterspell or not. Oh, and that's another thing too that I think slight tangent. D- Describing things without opening up the book and telling you exactly what it is, like not describing what a bugbear is, but describing what they look like and smell like and act. Not describing what a fireball is, but describing the action of what happens when the person Harukins towards the player characters or something, right? It's like it's describing the feeling of something scratching at the back of their head because, well, sure, it's just a charm person spell, but maybe there's something hypnotic about the way they say something. Oh man. Yeah, yeah. I butcher things. That's kind of my thing. Oh man. Michael mentions the party passing through crowds is an expected event. They'll expect pickpockets. What they won't expect is having one and only one player seeing everyone in the crowd looking at them silently. Ooh, that's a little bit scary. And then you wonder, is that only in their mind, or is this really happening that everyone else sees? Oh, thank you, thank you, thank you. Hey, look, at least I try. So there's some people out there. There's some people out there that like miss put the incorrect emphasis on the improper syllable all the time, and they don't they just pass right by it. At least I try to mispronounce it 30 ways before trying to get it right. Pass by the correct pronunciation and then deep dive right back down into the incorrect one. uh, Hmm. Vampanoy says I use the 5 4 3 2 1 grounding technique for anxiety when I try to think of what the environment is like. Just something from work I borrowed for DMing. You're gonna have to go in a little bit of detail about that, if you don't mind, because that sounds interesting. Hmm. Um, Anna says these things are also great to use to give a misleading sense of, say, comfort or relief right before you throw a surprise at them. I think as a reference to using mundane environments, much like a really good book or television show or even an amusement ride, you have a lull. You have a lull before you have a peak, right? And so you want to ramp up the peak by having that lull. That's why movies that have lots that are start to finish action aren't very good. But if you have a lull and a peak, I love myself some John Wick, but there are quiet moments in it. There are moments where he's got to check into the Continental. There's a moment where he's like driving along alone, sullenly looking at a past video of his wife or something. There are moments where he's like petting the dog on the head, where you have to, the old dog and the new one. But you get my point, right? Where you have to have a lull, the party gets to interact. If you're hell, little hint to player characters out there. If your dungeon master is struggling a little bit, you see them floundering a little bit, be synergistic and then turn inwardly to your party members. Start role playing with them to allow you, the dungeon master, to have time to come up with adding more story elements to the new thing. Maybe you guys made a left turn and didn't expect it, and then now you can say, okay, well, you go. I'm going to start role playing with the other party members to give my dungeon master a chance to kind of like, oh, I wasn't expecting them to get on the pirate boat. Flip, search on phone. Oh, what are they going to do now? And this way, it's not embarrassing with you just twiddling your thumbs like, come on, I got on a pirate ship. Don't you have a pirate ship ready? And it also means that you're comfortable with your dungeon master and other player characters to well interact with them. Um, uh, Rickard says, I have to say it before, and I'll say it again. Don't play the player characters. Play the players. You don't have to make the PCs think or feel anything. Make the players think or feel it. You know what? Hell's yes. Two games that have come out. These are like small, like indie games. Dread and 10 Candles are perfect examples of playing the players, not the player characters. In Dread, if you don't know, it's the Jenga tower. It's the pull the wooden cubes out of the tower and it tumbles down. Game mechanic. And 10 Candles is you get 10 candles, and as you fail to do something, you blow out a candle. And no, the characters in the game are not playing Jenga, and no, the characters in the horror story are not blowing out candles, but it is affecting the players, and the players' dread, pun intended, is layered onto the characters' dread. So yeah, oh yeah. Anybody that loves playing any version of Call of Cthulhu understands what that means. Yeah. All right, now Vampoy says, going back to the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 thing, 5 things you can see, 4 you can hear, 3 you can feel, 2 you can smell, and 1 that you can taste. Rickard's like, yeah, I'm gonna steal that for sure. I'm gonna put this back up and I'm gonna let it sit up there for a while, if you don't mind, there, Vamp. Yeah, 5 things you can see, and it goes on, and so we ignore those last 3, don't we? Like, I know I do. Like something you can feel and smell and taste. You taste you could taste like the coppery taste of blood in the air or something like that, and you just like, as a player, I'm just like, I don't want to taste. I don't want to taste something decomposing in the air. That's foul. I love it. Right? It's awesome. Oh man. Oh, Cam, you're so silly. I'll get to your comment in just a minute. Mike Gould says, graveyards, for instance, are spooky as a trope. A small private graveyard in a glen lit by sunlight with autumn leaves falling down breaks that trope until the hand of the murdered NPC thrusts up. Also, I like what Mike Gould is talking about, where we can take a trope, because we talk tropes on Trope Tuesday all the time, but using tropes is a good idea because we can then break the expectation of the trope itself, right? So, goblinoid bandits on the road attacking people is a trope. Goblinoid bandits on the road helping travelers who are attacked by somebody else, it breaks that trope, right? So we can play a trope because it's easy, it's quick, it's very, it includes our tropes are a way for us to info dump lots of information in a very small amount of space. Oh, you're traveling on a road and bandits attack. You don't need much more description than that, right? But you're on the road and bandits jump out of the woods. They're attacked by orcs that were hunting the bandits. And you're just like, what? Right? So, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Um, Mike Gould says, I'm sorry. I'm going to go to the comment just before that. It says knowing what your players love, hate, and are disgusted by is a key. Oh yeah, I hate mine is body horror. Like it's not spiders or like snakes or anything like that, and I'm not triggered by it. But I don't like body horror. I don't like things crawling into and out of body orifices and things like that. Broken bones and misplaced limbs, and that's my. I'm like, ugh. I mean, I love it in game. I hate it because it like gets to me. So I like a game master that does a little bit of that. You know, a little bit of like the opens its mouth and a roach crawls out or something like that. It's just like, oh ah. Even just mentioning it just. Oh, sorry. Oh man. Um, anyway, goes on to say that when I first DM'd my youngest, I knew she loved cute little animals. Placing a made up one in danger was a great tool to get her to rise to the occasion. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Don't. What's the. There's a movie term called kick the dog, save the cat. Yeah, hey, Mike, I hear you. There's a thing, a movie trope called kick the dog, save the cat. And what it means is that and you if you're savvy enough you'll see this and I'm going to go to a comment that Rickard mentions about this that there's a genre of placing an innocent into a story and then having your characters interact with that innocent and how they interact with the innocent is gives us information very quickly as to whether we should like them, hate them, trust them, love them, exile them, and whatnot. So, kick the dog, save the cat means that when you have an enemy say, "I'm a scientist and I'm going to put a rabbit inside of a jar and press the button and zap the rabbit," well, you know you're supposed to hate that person, right? When the dog is in a burning building and the hero goes, "Everybody get out!" And the hero turns back to the building and goes, "I've got to go back in to get the dog out, get the cat out of the tree, to grab the innocent young girl in the baby carriage before it gets run over by the speeding car instead of me shooting the bad guy in the back of the head." Then you know to like the hero, even though you've been given information otherwise. So, kick the dog, save the cat is a trope genre thing, which I'm going to hear where Rickard says, I love genre savvy players. It's so easy to put a genre savvy person in the right mood by hinting on something from a genre. Exactly. The player's already thinking 3 to 4 steps ahead in terms of the genre, so you can use that to build tension or subvert it without, excuse me, subvert it without worrying about if the players are on board. Absolutely. And what I love about being genre savvy is for me, you don't need to convince me. I'm all in, right? I am all in. I remember, side note, I played Call of Cthulhu, and we had a relatively new dungeon master that was running it and had this great idea where we were all. It was a typical, not typical. It was a mansion. Someone died. We were all invited, and they were going to read the will, and then we all got trapped there, and it was some we presumed there were werewolves out in the woods and they were attacking us. And the dungeon master, the storyteller, whatever it was, the keeper, whatever, forgot that when we drove up there, that the car still worked. So myself and another player decided to have an argument, and we pulled the spark plugs on the car to make sure the car couldn't go anywhere. Um, to trap us there because the whole point was not to leave, right? When you have horror, you're not supposed to get in the car and drive away. But yeah, hey Vince, what's going on there? So yeah, I love it. Mike Gould's like, yeah, DBJ, avoid my table. I specialize in body horror. Oh no, I would be there. I just don't like it in a good way. It's like you want to creep me out. Body horror is like, oh, that's my thing. That's the thing that gets to me. Some people are like, can't stand like children mixed with horror or spiders or drowning, or, or burning or something like that. For me, it's just body horror. I can't take it. And the weird thing is in real life, like I can see an open wound and I'm fine, but it's the fantasy attached to it. You know, it oh man. Oh, thanks, Cam. Cam's like, laugh out loud. DBJ, I'll avoid using rat swarms if I ever DM for you. Oh, you don't have to worry about that. I'm into it. Mm-mm-mm. Oh man, Rick said. Rickard mentions I had a player who did his best to die in combat because he refused to let the NPC take even one hit of damage, despite the NPC being a trained warrior there to help. But nope, the player really didn't want that character to die. You know, I mean, that's a real thing. You know what? Sometimes we throw in like an NPC or something like that into the game for like some offhanded name. We didn't even think about it. We were just like, we're looking around. We're looking at brand names around the place. Their name is Wendy Olive Garden. Yes, Wendy Olive Garden. And all of a sudden, this NPC becomes like the most important thing in the world, and you're just like, what the hell? Oh man, it's crazy. Mike says here's a free one. Take a dragonborn, make them an oathbreaker. Now say their breath weapon is a swarm of flies and carrion beetles, having them vomit up a mass of insects at the right time. Oh, I love it. Oh, I hate it. Oh, but I would absolutely let somebody do that. I would absolutely let someone go like, can I reflavor my, I don't know, magic missile to look like intestines coming out and like striking someone or whatever? Of course I would. I don't care. That's cool for you. It's like it's the question of if I cast a grease spell, do I actually create grease or do I make the surface frictionless? And I'm like, I don't know. Is that what it is? Because you're going to have to pick one. That's my ruling. You're going to have to pick one side. Do you make grease or do you make a surface frictionless, and then we'll go from there, and then I'll throw that into the world, you know? Yeah, the mummy. Oh, hell's yes. Oh man. Ooh. Anna Lay says, I know I'm butchering the name. I like using the senses of the players when they begin to feel the distant rumbling thunder in their chests, becoming a stampede, or the sight whiff of skunk becomes the putrid stench of a Sasquatch. That's a thing. Side note: the project I'm helping to work on with Level Up 5e over at N World, even though that wasn't the part I was brought into. There, every single creature is going to have like um, a detail associated with them before you see them. I think that's something to further enhance what Anna is talking about is that this happens when we start talking about random encounters, because those of us that are persons of certain age when I remember actually purchasing Redbox from Borders, not Borders, Barnes and not Barnes and Noble, Walden Books, sorry. That a random encounter isn't you turn the corner and you see something. A random encounter is you see their feces, you see something that they've been eating, you see claw marks, you smell them, you can hear them, you hear the rumbling, or it's all of the senses combined before you end up encountering the random encounter. It's not, oh, you're just traveling along and you trip over an intellect devourer. That's not what it's meant to be. Even in a random encounter, you're supposed to understand that the thing that exists in the world, whether you rolled it 10 seconds ago or 3 months ago when you wrote it down, is part of the world and should be included in the world as a real element. That kind of thing. Vince, hey, what's going on? Vince mentions in Lamentations of the Flame Princess, my character got the ability to control rats from a random mutation table. Rats are extremely useful bastards. Unfortunately, yes, they're quite intelligent, and I don't like them. Oh, you guys, what are you focusing on? Rat swarms, I think. Oh man. Vince goes on to mention that flavoring is everything. Have fun with your chef mages, mechanical rangers, companions, or I guess divergent necromancers and whatnot. Yeah, yeah. There it is. Yep, conductor necromancers. I mean, yeah. It's like I think if your necromancer is like a classic Frankenstein scientist, like, oh, I don't raise the dead with rituals, I insert mechanical rods into various open wounds inside of my undead and bring them to life with electrical power or something like that. I'm like, I that sounds cool, I don't care, whatever, go ahead and do it. Why the hell not? All right, so I'm going to hit this comment and then I'm going to show you guys a little bit of something, or introduce you a little bit of something. Mike says, DBJ, the big bad evil guy of my Thole campaign was a frost hag, but perpetually in the body of a little girl, ooh, with the bluest eyes possible. Her hag vehicle was a headless frost giant zombie with a treehouse head. That just, oh, that hits me. That hits me so bad on so many levels. Sorry. I'm just imagining this like 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 a quarter size too big blue eyes that always seem like they're just a little bit of a cry with a little frosted tear here. Mister, could you help me, please? With a small, like dragging a small stuffed doll or something behind her, just like, oh. And we forget that, I mean, yeah, we know that hags are like ugly, but they're also illusionists. They shape change into things, into people that we might want to absolutely associate with the beautiful, the innocent, and that always works. Oh man. Vince mentions, as long as it does not impact the gameplay, just let them have fun with flavor. I do that with Astrocitas all the time. I'm butchering the title. I apologize. Even race is mostly flavor for me. You want to be a walking slime? Sure. I absolutely agree with you. Yep, I absolutely agree with you. Yep. And to add to that, Vince says, just functionally be a human, like eat, breathe, have a general shape, etc. I'm a slime, shaped like a human being. And you're like, okay, I guess. Vampire says, you cast grease to hear rhythmic snapping sounds as a crowd of boys come around the corner wearing jackets and blazing with sharks. Officer Crumpkey. Jets, sharks, anybody? Wow, you guys are young. Wow. I'm just picking. Oh man. Mike's like, she literally tricked the paladin into giving up his worldly possessions and lead the party on a wild goose chase before decimating a halfling village they left behind. That's terrible. That's terrible. Rickard's like, just for you, DBJ. Okay, here we go. You're about to walk into a room when you see a dead rat with his head twisted in an unnatural angle lying in the doorway, its empty eyes looking up at you. Suddenly it convulses and a dark sludge pours out of its dead mouth. Oh, I hate it. Starts moving on its own back into the room. Yeah, no, thank you. Oh, I'm just getting images of that. Oh, I hate it. I love it. Oh man, you guys are so funny. You're making fun of me. Oh, you, Cam's like, okay, boomer. I love it. Vince like, well, I never saw it. Guilty as charged. See, I get it. Man, Vampano is like, that was perfect. I'm assuming the being freaked out and not the not falling for West Side Goblins. Well, it depends. One faction's the Jets and the other's the Sharks. Which one's which? Come on, you gotta choose a side. You can't just, beat it. Come on, tie the hands together. We're gonna have a knife fight. What up? Oh, Ricker's like, you're welcome. Oh, that's creepy. I feel like I have to. It's like prickly feeling. I get that. I get a prickly feeling. I hate that. God. Oh man. Afterwards, there are the grease elves. Come back, slick baby. Yeah. Wow, elves with the rolled up weed in their white tees and the leather jackets. They're getting on they're riding on like giant elks making room room sounds, and the elks are like, what are you doing? And the elves are like, vroom, vroom. The elk is like, that we don't make noises like that, but whatever, okay, I guess. uh, Mufa's like, I wasn't paying attention. Come back to the description of a dead rat. Yeah, yeah, I hear you. I hear you. Greased lightning. Mike Gould says, I can't hear Michael Jackson without seeing Weird Al. Yeah, yeah, me too. Weird Al, the survivor of the 80s. Greased elves? I'm sure they like them greased lightning. Mm-mm-mm-mm-mm. Oh my goodness. Go grease lightning. Here we go. Go grease Elron tearing up the 405. Grease Elron, go grease Elron. Oh no. No, no, no. I'm gonna get in trouble. YouTube's going to get me in trouble. Mm-mm-mm. Yeah, Mofa, I hear you. Okay, all right. So we are getting to the end. So let me just share a little something with you, both something from myself that's already out and something that you guys are some New York Italian elves. Yo, listen. You adventurers, you want to come through this dark woods, you're gonna have to come through me first. Oh man. Yeah, and Annalise says, yeah. It can be challenging when you have a table full of suspicious PCs. Um, you guys are so stuck with a thing. Vince is like, yeah, we have to. Oh, now we have to actually make this RPG. That would be hilarious, in a very comical kind of way. But Annalise getting back on track. Says it can be challenging when you have a table full of suspicious PCs. I think yes. Um, and this is where Cam mentioned very early in the show about like, well, what about mundane environments or things of that nature? And I think it's a matter of some of us have can fall into a pattern. I know I have a pattern. I don't know what it is, but someone else would know that is my pattern to always for example, have an NPC that's a turncoat, or is my pattern always to have something hidden underneath something mundane, or is my pattern always to have bandits jump out of the woods and attack the PCs, right? Like some of us, we have a go-to. And like my go-to are like my top five: Rakshasa, Naga, Oni, also known as Ogre Magi, um, Hags, and Sphinxes. Like those are my top five go tos because I think they kind of like embody all three of the pillars. So I do have a go to, and sometimes it's a matter of like not going to the go to, so that the players, if they're always suspicious, you give them things to not be suspicious of and then go and kind of rank down their suspicions and go, okay, maybe we shouldn't be, because if for example, you get the murder hobos that like kill every NPC because they expect the NPC to turn on them, that is a thing. Imovacall mentions like one of my go-to is a pronounced Dwygar. Is that how they pronounce it? Dwygar? I wish they never gave us the pronunciations of these things. I think it's Dwygar. Dwargar. That is how they pronounce it. Duergar. Whatever. But yeah, all of us have a go-to, an easy go-to. Like I love a Naga or a Sphinx. Usually I reskin them a hell of a lot. Hags, I'll just reskin them. If I need a mage, I just pick a hag. If I need a warlock or something, I pick a Naga and just reskin it a little bit. But yeah, those are yeah, Dwargar. Yeah, I wish they never gave a pronunciation. I like not knowing how the thing is pronounced so that all of us have a different interaction with the thing. And it gives us something to argue about when we get together at conventions or get online or something. They should have never they put out an audio version of pronunciations Watsy did, and I think that was the worst thing in terms of keeping the community together. It's not terrible. I'm just like, don't do that. You don't have to do that. Oh man, zombie horde plus Otto's irresistible dance equals thriller. I'm going to get in trouble. Yeah, Vince is like, just describe things, harmless things, suspiciously every once in a while. Yeah, yeah. There are enough arguments over alignment. I try to avoid those. Yeah, yeah, you're right. You're like, I used to argue over pronunciations, but now I go to my go-to and argue over hit points. Yeah, exactly. Michael says, I've used a lot of shape-shifting monsters to play both sides. Yep, hags, succubi, doppelgangers. I wish I used got doppelgangers and like shape changers more often, but I don't. Even with like the ogre magi, I'll use them, but I never like extend use them. And I wish I did that more often. Yeah, whatever. Not sure if any Norse language spelled it that way, but the pronunciation is Norse myth dwarves, so it's not like it's a made up thing. Oh no, no, no. Well, yeah, but you are assuming. Okay, let me give you an example. Like, um, every dialect has its own accent to a thing, so it's not necessarily mispronunciation, which is here we go with the argument. It's that I'm neither Nordic nor Norse. So my own inclination is to pronounce things based on my upbringing or something. There's an hour-long video of a guy who goes through every single intonation in the Northern Americas, and you'd be like, "What the hell?" And it's because of you know, yeah, it's just different. It's just different pronunciation. That's all. And it's not in your language in that culture. Sure, it's like data or data. Like Annalay says, it's amazing how many variations there are of the word. Uh, okay, let's see who's going to argue with this. Melee, melee, Malay, right? So yeah, yeah, the alignment argument. Yeah, of course. Yep. Don't. Yeah, yeah. Cam's yeah, right. Exactly. Cam's like, it's funny when people say they don't have an accent. Sure, to people who sound exactly like me. Yeah. Um, but anyway, since we are is it melee? Melee. What is it? My man Dave Frant from Nerdarchy always says it Malay. Malay. That's it, Malay. Because he's like, it's spelled Malay. It's pronounced Malay. And I'm like, I don't you go around correcting people, and here's the problem with that. It's like, so I mean, I get it. If it's someone's proper name, data versus data, which side note, in Star Trek, no one knew whether Data's name was Data or Data until Patrick Stewart first pronounced it the very first time in the show, and it became that way from then on. So, yep. Yep. Now, Rickard says it's also taken from the Norse culture, so I find it a nice touch for them to add the correct pronunciation to the site. No. I agree with you. I'm just saying that people aren't, if you don't visit the site, you'll never know. And and words like what's it in horse racing? There's in reality there's something known as a valet. In horse racing, there's a valet, right? Same word pronounced differently because it got transferred to another culture, and that kind of thing. The English language is made up of so many other words from other cultures that have been manipulated and morphed and things into a thing that is not related to what it used to be. So it becomes its own thing. So yeah. Yeah, Rickard. Yeah, he's like, we could make a 1 hour video of pronunciations of melee. Oh, you caught me. Damn it. Ma- Mal- Malay, Malay for Germans, and see, and then so you have to pick the proper emphasis on the syllable, right? Is it mm, mm, or is it right? Which one? Oh man! Oh, thank you, Restream. I guess I appreciate that. Um, uh, yeah, Cam's like we say bravo all the time, and that's not English. Yeah, we do a lot. Altiog is weird. Yeah, whatever. It's crazy. All right, so before we get out of here, let me just share. I'm going to share something with you. The chat is going to be covered up. Just so relax a little bit. The chat will be covered up, so I won't be able to see it quite clearly. So just allow me to share this with you, and then I'll be right back. So to let you guys know that the sorry, this is just the image of one of the books that we have, because today is Third Pillar Thursday and cinematic environs and the whole nine yards, and this just happens to be one of the books that are that I have that's out there. So I really appreciate that. And this is just an example of one of a number of things that many of us content creators out there have been doing for a long time, and we really are into these kind of things. Like, for example, this particular cinematic environment is based on the wetlands. It's swamps and wetlands and bogs and fens. It's just kind of funny because the guys over at WebDM just released a new video about swamps and fens and marshes and the differences between them. And this is just an example of uh, of one of the things produced over here at Critical Hit Publishing, and we go through like types of wetlands, and we even cataract bogs and raised bogs and fens and all that kind of business, right? And one of the things that the reasons for me being such a proponent of cinematic environs is that it allows us to have another dynamic way of looking at the world and interacting with our players. There's something known in the TV and movie industry as spectacle creep, and spectacle creep is this idea that in order to make things um, interesting, you have to make things more dangerous and bigger. It can't just be one dragon, it's got to be 17 of them, right? And the idea behind spectacle creep, let's see if we can get to this. We're into parasites and eye worms and stuff like that. There we go. Alex Alex did this for me. Because it's pretty nasty. Close up, it kind of looks, you can see how he kind of like um it did some graphic design on it, because he's our layout artist and artists, things like that for it. But it's pretty interesting. But anyway, that's one of them. But I did want to show you. Sorry. Secondly, I did want to show you. This is a play test, and this is the Journey playtest information out there for Level Up 5e from N World. Okay, so you guys, you have to know who N World is, and they do reviews and blogs, things about it. And they've done, I think, like over 20 successful Kickstarters so far, and this one's going to be very huge. So this is the 17th playtest, and of course, this is close to me because this has to do with journeys, and it's the Journey playtest rule. So first of all, this isn't finalized, but this is the document that lists the journeys, and in it, journeys are now constructed like monster stat blocks in many ways. And of course, we have the journey rules and travel and forced march and all this kind of stuff. And we've got some cool artwork here. Um, Nobody likes camping in torrential rain and fires and such. But um, we've introduced something known as supply, and you have to spend supply to take your short and long rests and such. Of course, there's like weather and journey activities. And to me, I love the journey activities as far as why should you adventure in the first place? So journey activities include things like busking, or which basically means adventurers can entertain passersby with successful acrobatics, athletics, or performance checks to gain some gold and maybe some information. You can chronicle, cook, befriend an animal. You can cover your tracks as you travel, gather components, harvest. Where we go, hunt and gather, track prey, rob, and things like that. Scout for scouting ahead. And let me get back into the live studio and turn this off. So the reason for yeah, the brain thing. The reason for having journey rules and cinematic environs and all of that kind of nature, for me, is simply because I appreciate the fact that that we have something for our gaming, that instead of raising the stakes, instead of doing um, ex- not one dragon but 20 dragons, we now have a way to go, you know what, I want to make a wintry environment, or my players are going to go to the far north in the winter. Great, okay, now we don't really need to we don't need to ramp up the danger. We can just change the danger. Yeah, on an open field, my character's a badass, but on a slippery frozen lake, nah, maybe not so much. Yeah, my Tempest cleric is great, pulling down lightning and casting, thunder wave out on the open plains, cool. But in an avalanche prone zone, maybe you might not want to do that. The monk might be useless in an open field where the wizard's just casting fireballs and whatnot. But on a sailing vessel, maybe the monk's more kick-ass because the wizard's like, if I cast my pyromancer cast fireball, we're probably going to drown. So it's just changing the environment, changing where we use it, what's happening, coming up with new ways to interact with the rules, not just what is it. Darkness is a thing that uh, is up for contention in our role playing. Like everyone's got dark vision, so it's just this thing that solves everything. And I'm like, well, it depends on your interaction, right? It, if you want visual hazards, you've got hanging tapestries and blowing leaves and fog and mist and smoke and thick jungle foliage. Are you looking for a visual hazard, or are you just upset about dark vision? Okay, well, let's avoid that. Let's use the environment and make it something interesting and cool and unique, and for the most part, just something that we can interact with and turn into a character unto itself. And don't be afraid to do it, and don't be afraid to allow the players to use and abuse it as well. Oh man. The frog with the scorpion, or the ship and the fire mage. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's in my nature. They're like, pyromancer, no, I can't stop myself. Fireball. Yep. Yeah. Mike Gould's like, treating the environment like a character. How you react to it determines how it reacts back. Yeah. And if your players are not used to it, just have your NPCs keep doing it. Have your NPCs go up on the rocky ridge and cause a landslide. Have the NPCs uh, bugbear grab a player character and force their face down into a muddy pool of water and try to drown them or something like that. Yeah, like Rickard says, like, upset about dark vision. Oh, is that smoke or fog over there? Yeah. I got you saying upset, right? Like the whole point is, what is your end result? Is it just being upset about like dark vision? We get upset about hit points and alignment, all the kind of stuff. But you can get upset about it, but like, all right, so let's get past it. Oh, you don't like alignment? Let's come up with like personality traits, or um the color wheel from Magic the Gathering, or hey, I've got this new personality test or something like that. Whatever. Okay, let's use that instead. So NPCs as unreliable narrators. Yep. I love unreliable narrators. I like books written with unreliable narrators because you have to like read it and also read between the lines. So I love that. Oh man. And I agree with that. Cam says also running into these monsters a lot should be able to highlight the power difference when the players are higher level. And it also can allow us to give advantages to monsters that the player characters now have to contend with. Like, excuse me, bugbears that are white furred adapted to the winter. Maybe the bugbears have more of an advantage, and then we can keep using that. Excuse me, beyond third level or fourth level or fifth level. Maybe those alligators in the dank swamp, we can keep using them because well, they're not just alligators with low hit points and my PCs can kill them because they're fifth level, but there's also the danger of drowning and not being able to see underwater and getting tangled in the brush, in the marshes, in the jungle or the swamp. And is that an open wound? Oh, now you have to worry about cleaning the wound before it gets infected by a parasite or becoming diseased. And so you're adding these other complications into a thing, stacking complications, causing a drain on resources, forcing players to become far more creative. And I like that kind of stuff. All right. Vampano is like, this isn't this isn't just regular darkness, this is advanced darkness. I'm gonna have to get out of here. I'm gonna end this with Annalise's background music and sounds are great for environmental flavor. If a DM wants to keep track of that during play. I sometimes can pass that off. As a matter of fact, we can go on to there are lots of apps you can use for your phone if you want like a sound foley. Now, this can get a little bit out of hand because there's some players who just love to mess with buttons and things, but there's plenty of sound folies out there. Sirenscape is the very first one that comes to mind, but there's plenty others that have background sounds, music, playlists, things like that that are just nothing but sound effects you can just turn on or add into a loop, turn the sound down. I love that stuff. Well, hell, playing the reason for playing Dungeons and Dragons in basements with candles is to get into the mood, as opposed to playing in bright daylight on someone's porch. Not that you can't do it, but there's a reason why we like to go out and buy those darn black candles that would melt with the red on the inside. It looked like blood coming down, giving away a little bit too much information about myself. Yeah, yeah. But anyway, yeah. And Rickard said, and it's free. Yeah, the environment's free. You don't. It's easy to just do. Yep. Table. Your app is tabletop. Tabletop audio is my preferred one, and it's free. Yeah, that's awesome. Man, I wish I could do reviews about that kind of stuff. Yep, and that Michael mentions that I've downloaded a bunch of them. There are also some great ambient playlists on YouTube. Yeah, ambient, no music, and of course we have our favorite movies that have soundtracks to them, and uh, yeah, soundtracks and what's the other one? Anyway, you can get the background music to the movie, Lord of the Rings, and a ton of movies that aren't fantasy that have great backgrounds to them as well. Ooh. Hmm. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Rickard's like, maybe here's a novel idea. Let's make a review of it. Maybe, yeah. It would be weird, but I'm down for it. Michael Gelfi. Shit, how do you pronounce it? Michael, is it Gelfi? Makes amazing ambiances, and he has hundreds. What does he release? Like two a week or something? It's pretty damn. It's crazy how many he has. Yep, and he's free on YouTube. Yeah, Michael Gelfi. Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh hell's yes. Yeah. Hey Prue. Hey, what's going on there? Prue just made it. Okay. Sorry guys. This is I really gotta go. Thank you so much for being here. Please, whatever platform you're on, please like, share, subscribe, share the information to your friends, family, grandmothers, people you don't like, strangers on the street, writing notes on bathroom walls. I don't know how to spell it. He's like, is it Gelfi or I don't know. It's easy to find him though, and his playlists are like an hour long, not playlists. Soundscapes are like an hour long, and they're all role playing centered. All of them, like Arcane Library or Battlefields and so on and so forth. So please check him out, and others and whatnot. Thank you very much, there, Anna Lee. Anna Lay, shit, I'm whatever. You're just gonna have to get used to me butchering. I'm gonna call you Old World. Old World. This was so much fun, and thank you so much. Glad you could stop by, guys. Whatever platform you're on, please, thank you. We go live Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. my time, Eastern Standard Time, but it's Monday through Friday. I usually come up with a subject, a theme for the entire week, and then we subdivide it. Monster Monday, Trope Tuesday, World Building Wednesday, today, Third Pillar of Exploration Thursday, and tomorrow is Future Friday, where we talk about science fiction. So that's kind of the rundown of the show. Cam, thank you very much for being here. Anna and everyone that you know, please invite them along. And for all the newcomers out there, thank you so much. Everybody have a great day. I've got to head off to work. See ya. Bye. Have a great one.